The headlines we are tracking for you this evening. Parenting platform BabyChakra has acquired one of India's strongest regional parenting networks, Tinystep, to further strengthen its growth across the country. Now, this is BabyChakra's first acquisition, and with this, the venture expands its regional footprint by providing in-depth access to a robust network of parents across 9 languages. BabyChakra now targets to reach 75 million moms by the end of 2022. To talk about this acquisition and the road ahead, joining me now is the founder and CEO of BabyChakra and also the co-founder of Good Glam Group, Naiyya Saggi. Naiyya, welcome back to Startup Street. This is your first acquisition. What excited you about Tinystep? It is a multilingual healthcare and parenting network, Naiyya. So the synergies are there, but take me through the specifics of the deal. How does this acquisition help you accelerate growth and expansion?
Sure, happy to. And Shruti, as we were mentioning earlier, you always track us first. So it's super exciting to be talking to you today as well. Acquisitions are a case of complementarities. And I think with Tinystep, we saw some very strong complementarities, right? So the aspiration with BabyChakra is how do you become the largest, most trusted parenting platform? And if you look at Tinystep, I think what we found was a very beautiful sort of plug and play for us there was the very large social presence it had, especially in regional communities and regional languages. So Tinystep, just to remind us all, is actually a 5 million followership social network, which is it's the largest sort of social, a platform in its space across Facebook, Instagram, etc. And more importantly, it's present in 9 regional languages. BabyChakra, in its aspiration to grow and be a partner to families across India, has to speak the language of families across India.
Sure.
So for us, it is a very, very natural complementarity and a very natural fit across social assets, as well as, giving us a 1.5 years head start, actually, almost into regional percolation.
Okay. So regional expansion is going to be the focus area. Naiyya, we know that it's a 100% acquisition. It's an all-cash deal. If you could give us a sense of the deal size. Also, what happens to the Tinystep team? We understand that its founder, Sohail Abidi, will be exiting.
So Shruti, this is actually an IP and an asset deal. I can't, of course, disclose the deal terms. We never do at the group, as you already know. But what we're actually doing with the IP is what is important. So the social assets, which have taken the Tinystep team almost 5 years to cultivate and build, will actually become part of BabyChakra's social assets. So it'll, immediately sort of, at its peak, Tinystep was reaching about 30 million moms on a monthly basis across the social assets, right? So that, I think, power is going to be harnessed by BabyChakra and the BabyChakra team. The second, of course, asset in IP is the 40,000 pieces of content across 9 regional languages that the Tinystep team had made, again, over a period of 4.5-5 years. So that immediately sort of gets bolstered and sort of patched onto the BabyChakra, content and community network. And that opens up conversations for parents in these different regions and different languages to engage on the BabyChakra platform. So that is pretty much the construct of the deal. It is basically an IP and an asset buyout.
And the team, of course, merges into BabyChakra.
That's right.
Okay. Naiyya, you aspire to reach 75 million mothers by the end of this year. You have, in fact, earmarked 100 crores in building India's largest mom-baby content-to-commerce platform over the next 3 years. So is inorganic growth the way forward for you? And how soon will we hear of more acquisitions?
Shruti, I want to tell you, give you a few updates actually since the last time we talked, all right? So since we joined the group, the group actually perfected content to commerce. It has also perfected growth on content, right? So when we joined, we were at about 20 million mothers on an annualized basis we were reaching. We're already doubling those numbers. So we're currently at about 40 million mothers that we reach, right? And we also reach a community of about 10,000 doctors. So as you can see, I think growth is already happening organically because of the entire sort of growth engine that the group has already perfected and that we're latching onto and leveraging extensively. So organic growth is certainly going to be a focus. As in when we find very discrete assets across content, community, and commerce, we are in conversations. Nothing finalizes right now, but we're very open to inorganic growth because we've seen again success across the group in acquiring founders, in acquiring assets that really add value. And the belief fundamentally is that we are it's always larger when we are actually, whole sort of some of very interesting parts that you can't create overnight together, right? So you kind of save a lot of time if you're able to acquire very strong assets as a company.
All right. Naiyya, but what does the road to profitability look like? If you could take me through the business growth numbers, also any revenue targets that you've set for yourself.
So Shruti, I can't comment on revenue targets. I think that is a separate conversation that we can have. But I'll tell you what is, I think, fundamentally extremely interesting about the whole content to commerce strategy is that at the heart of it, we are already, profitable on every unit transaction because we have the lowest CAC in the industry, right? And I think that is something that is the underpinning of all of this specific acquisition as well. With the social assets and the reach that we have through Tinystep, with the new audiences we're getting through Tinystep that already exist, and we're latching onto the BabyChakra ecosystem, your CAC is already at an all-time low. And as you know, in D2C and in e-commerce, CAC is really where companies burn money, right? So I think the CAC piece is already taken care of with the BabyChakra growth and with the Tinystep acquisition. And I think that sets us up very, very well for a very profitable growth play. Today, however, the focus is on growing out the platform. That mission remains intact. Reaching 75 million mothers by the end of this year remains intact. And the overall vision in 3 years, how to become a 500 crore play, I think that vision remains intact, right? So I think that journey will initially maybe not be a very profitable one, but over time, I mean, we have to be a cash generating company, right? So I think long-term, of course, profitability is very much in play.
Okay, let's talk about the sector, Naiyya, now. The baby care products market in India is currently driven by an increase in internet penetration and, of course, online availability of baby care products and the growing number of nuclear and single-parent families. So clearly there is immense potential. If you could throw some light on the new emerging trends you're seeing.
Absolutely. You know, Shruti, it's really interesting you say that. I mean, of course, baby care is one of the fastest growing categories, right? But internet e-commerce penetration is still very low. We're looking at about a 10 to 15% penetration on e-commerce for baby care products. So as you can imagine, the market is massive. And, you know, every year you have about 27.6 million babies being born, right? So I think there's a very, very long room for growth there, which is what is so exciting about the baby care and the mom care space. I think just 3 trends we're seeing at BabyChakra. One is that, you know, we've had this sort of wave one of natural products, right? I think mothers today are much more discerning. They want more than natural. They want natural plus, which is why the BabyChakra proposition of being, made with organic ingredients. That's the story we've come out with. And that's really the promise we give to our consumers as BabyChakra with our products. The second is, of course, safety was the other narrative. But I think what has happened because that safety narrative, consumers are demanding more transparency from companies that they buy products from as well. And hence clean labels, cruelty-free, very, very transparent ingredients and promises at the back of pack and front of pack. Right, that is something that more consumers are getting more and more aware of. And the third is that consumers, you know, I think this whole surgence of D2C brands have made consumers realize that D2C companies made in India and made for India really understand the needs of Indian consumers best. So we're seeing more and more narratives around, you know, what happens to my baby, what kind of products suit my baby in Indian climates, in different regions, with different cultural nuances. So those are the sort of the 3 trends we're seeing play out in the baby care market in India.
All right. Thank you so much, Naiyya, for that. And we've completely run out of time. Many thanks for joining us on the show today. It's always a pleasure having you here.
Thanks, Shruti. It's my pleasure.
All right. Moving on from M&A onto some funding news now. 100%